guys, it's Violet here with another episode of True Crime and Art. I'm going to tell you guys the true crime story of Zack Bowen and Addie Hall from New Orleans, Louisiana. Today, it's a good one. I'm from Louisiana, so I always found this case really interesting. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you guys what I'm actually painting this time. So today, I am going to be painting an oyster, a single oyster. If you are not from Louisiana, it's going to look kind of strange and it might look like a boob. I don't know. But it will be an oyster, okay? So just trust me on that. It'll be an oyster. Right? So, well, right now it kind of looks like a pear or an avocado. Anyway, so Zack Bowen was actually born in May of 1978 in Bakersfield, California. He was born to the most hippie parents, right? So they lived in California and they decided they wanted to travel. And so they packed up Zack and his oldest brother, older brother who was 6 when Zack was born, and they started traveling around the country. My easel is making it hard for me to get in there. Sorry. So they started traveling around the country, right? Now, whenever they made it to Seattle, they really loved that vibe. So they kind of settled in Seattle. And Seattle at that time was, and I've never been to Seattle, I really want to go, but was a party town. If you're from Seattle or been to Seattle and you know it's still a party town, let me know. Not that I'm going, I'm just curious. So they really liked that vibe. You know, it was the 70s, so they were enjoying themselves, having a good time. Well, Linda, the mom, really wanted to settle down just a bit. And the dad, Jack, was like, I don't really like this life. This partying, this good time. Oh gosh, guys, I'm flinging it again. Every time my husband gets home, he's like, why is there paint on my computer? Why is there paint on my mouse? I'm like, babe, it's all in the name of art and murder, which will happen if you don't leave me alone. Anyway, they end up fighting a lot, Zack's mom and dad, because his dad was really enjoying the nightlife in Seattle. His mom was ready to settle down with the kids, so they ended up getting a divorce, and his mom ended up moving back to California. And his dad saw him some, or saw both of the boys some, but his dad really, really was into partying. So his dad stayed in Seattle and just lived out his best life. Now, Zack stayed with his mom, like I said, his mom and his older brother, and he was known to be really the class clown, and everybody really liked him. He was the fun guy. He was the jovial guy. He was also very, very tall. Whenever he was a freshman in high school, he was 6'10" and had a size 17 shoe. Which, remember this, for some reason, this guy's poor shoe size really just kind of screwed up his life. It really affected him. So anyway, so Zack was the funny guy. Everybody loved him, and he seemed to get along with everybody in school. He had lots of friends. Going well, right? Oh, guys, here I go with Big Bertha again. Look. Oh, I put enough water in it this time. That's good. Why do we call things Big Bertha? Shouldn't it be couldn't we call it something else, like Big Betty? Or Big Bar... Oh, my mom's name is Barbara. I'm not going to do that. I'll get in trouble. Sorry, Mom. Sorry. Just kidding. Big Bertha it is. Does anybody know a real life Bertha? If you do, I'm sorry. I'm more scared of my mom than I am of your real life Bertha. So, anywho. Sorry. This thing is hard to clean out. Oh, it does so good, though. Okay. So, we have our background that looks kind of like an avocado or a pear. That's okay. So whenever Zack was in high school, he actually, he ran for homecoming king, and he lost. And apparently this really, really traumatized him, which was kind of surprising to me because I don't know about you guys, but whenever I was in high school, it wasn't a big deal who was homecoming queen or king. It just didn't matter. Well, it mattered to Zack, and he was like, I have to get out of here. I'm so embarrassed. I hate California. I'm leaving. So he was planning to go move in with his dad. At this point, he's 18. And his mom's like, okay, well, I can't really do anything. You're 18. So So the summer before Zack is moving in with his dad because he's going to go to college in Seattle, he goes on a road trip, and he plans this road trip around all the party cities in the USA. Wow, and it's supposed to end up in New Orleans and then go back to Seattle, right? Well, he ends up in New Orleans, and he is all about that life. Now, I went to college in New Orleans. I get it. It's a fun time. So Zack moves to New Orleans. He's like, I'm staying here forever. I've found my place. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to live. And Zack moves in, and he actually moves into the Quarter. Now, if you've ever been to the Quarter, it is like a world of its own, okay? And he becomes a quarter rat, which is essentially like he lives, plays in the Quarter. So he becomes a bartender. He's really popular because, like I said, he's the fun guy, and he, despite being 6'10", I mean, like, very tall, he is supposedly very good looking. I will try, all the pictures I found of him are from later on, so I'll try to find a picture of him from earlier on. Hopefully it's there. So Zack is supposedly doing really well as a bartender, okay? And then one weekend, he sees this girl who's this really cute girl. She's this brunette that she's petite, and Zack just has an eye on her. Her name is Lana, and she is in with her girlfriends from Dallas. They're in New Orleans for like a long weekend. Now, Lana is a dancer in Dallas, okay? Like an exotic dancer, just to give you background before we go any further with that, so you know where Lana is, okay? So the rest of the trip, Lana and Zack end up spending pretty much the entire time together. And her girlfriends were like, yeah, you do you, boo, because we see you. We know that, like, you're into this guy. That's a thing. Keep going. So they spend the entire time together. She returns back to Dallas, and they keep in touch. And after 3 weeks of her being back in Dallas, she's like, I'm going back to New Orleans. I'm moving to New Orleans, and I'm moving in with Zack. They move in together, and they're together, okay? Now, at this point, not long after she's moved in with Zack, she finds out that he is 18. And that kind of freaks Lana out because she's a little older. And so she leaves because she feels like she is dating a baby. This is a problem. To make matters worse, she is pregnant. And she doesn't tell Zack that she's pregnant. Like, she's moved out. She's living somewhere with someone else in New Orleans. And she ends up having the baby. And one of her friends calls Zack and is like, hey, you have a little boy. His name's Jackson. Come see him. Zack goes and meets Jackson. And he loves this little boy. He is smitten. He wants to be the best father ever. So Lana, it's kind of softened her up, and she's looking past the fact that he's 18 years old and a baby himself, and they get back together, okay? After they've been together for a little while, Zack proposes, they get married, and they actually have their second child, a daughter named Lily. Now, at this point, Zack is like, bartending is not doing enough for my family. Lana is actually still stripping in New Orleans, so he's like, I need to do something more substantial. He ends up joining the Army for an 8-year contract, and Lana loves it because it means she can stay home with her kids. She doesn't have to strip anymore. Great. Boom, bang. Now, whenever he was in the Army, he actually really excelled. Zack did. He was really fun. He was really funny. All of his co-workers, his troop, what's it called when you're in there together? His squad. Oh, gosh. Y'all are going to get me on this. Well, all of his co-military people, I can't think of the right word, sorry. Anyway, they loved him too. So Zack did really well. He followed orders well. He really rose up in the ranks. He was doing really well, okay? And whenever he was stationed in Kosovo, he actually befriended a little 8-year-old little girl and was giving her candy. Well, he gave this little girl a piece of candy, and he found out the next day that she was murdered for talking to an American. And this started the downward spiral that he would later go on. So this really affected him. He wanted no part of it. He felt like it was his fault. Now, to make matters worse, his family was still in New Orleans, so he missed them a lot. And you remember, guys, he had size 17 feet. He developed hammer toe, which apparently is a really serious thing. And he had to go back to New Orleans for surgery. While he's back in New Orleans for surgery, he fills out the paperwork for Lana and the kids to move with him to base. He was stationed in Germany. So it turns out Lana didn't actually really want to go because she was kind of nervous about everybody knowing she was an exotic dancer. And so life on base for her was kind of hard, but he was thrilled to have his family there. Now things are looking a little bit better for him because his family's in Germany with him. But after September 11th, Zack is deployed to Iraq, and he hates it. He hates it so much. He started to really resent the military, and then his hammer toe was still not right, so he was put on desk duty in Iraq. The same time, he found out that Lana had Hep C, and it was really severe. She couldn't take care of herself or her kids, so he was dealing with a lot. He ended up going home for 2 weeks to help Lana, but only 2 weeks, and the military was like, "Get your ass back." Lana's doctors, even the American Red Cross, tried writing letters to the military saying how crucial it was that Zack stay with Lana. Didn't work. He was back in Iraq. Now, while he was there, he had a friend named Rachel who was kind of like him. She was the funny one of the group. She made life for him bearable. She ended up dying during deployment. Another huge hit for Zack. Zack also befriended another little boy named Rashid, and Rashid would bring Zack drinks from his family store in exchange for Zack teaching him English, and he really took on a big brother role for Rashid. And then Zack found out that Rashid's family store was blown up with Rashid and his entire family inside. So Zack is just done. At this point, he's done. He wants to go back home. He doesn't want to be in the military anymore. He hates the military. So he purposely starts failing his PT test. And the military's like, "No, get your shit together. Like, you can't fail your PT test." And he's like, "Watch me. I'm going to do it." Continuously fails them, continuously fails them. So then he is generally discharged. So a general discharge, it's not a dishonorable discharge, but it's not the good one. So he ended up losing all of his health benefits and his education benefits. He comes home to tell Lana, "Hey, I'm no longer in the military, but we don't have benefits anymore." Lana is pissed because she didn't have to strip anymore. She was staying with her kids. She is pissed. She goes back to New Orleans to try to find a job, and Zack is in Germany with the kids. They get their stuff together and they fly back to New Orleans to go meet Lana. Well, when Lana picks him up from the airport, she tells him, "Hey, I got a job, I got a place, I also got another man, so bye." Zack ended up having to sleep in a hotel room, so he is completely shook by this. He gets a bartending job, and he starts to go about his life, and they start to co-parent separately because Lana's moved in with a different person, and the kids are staying with her, and he gets his kids. Zack gets his kids on weekends. So he's bartending. Life is starting to look up a little bit because he loves being in the quarter. He loves being in New Orleans. And if you've ever been to New Orleans, you know there's a vibe. It's a good vibe, right? So Zack is all about that. He's loving it. He's back. So whenever he is bartending, he meets a girl named Addie Hall. Addie is from North Carolina, and she was raised by an ex-military dad and a homemaker mom, so she had a pretty normal childhood. But in her adolescence, she was actually sexually assaulted so severely that she spent months in the hospital. So I mean, she had a traumatic adolescence, and that, I'm telling you that because it'll lead to where we're going next. So Addie was a really tiny thing. And remember, Zack was 6'10". Addie loved to drink and do cocaine and get into fights. Like, she had a really bad temper, and she was known for breaking beer bottles over people's heads. I don't know about you, but if I owned a business and I was looking to hire a bartender, I don't think I'd hire the one that likes to break beer bottles on people's heads. Anyway, so Zack meets Addie and he loves her. He is in love with her. She kind of plays hard to get for a little bit, but eventually the two of them, they are an item. They are a thing. Now, as you can guess, it's not like smooth sailing for them because, well, Addie's kind of wild, right? So they get into fights all the time. A lot of times violent. It's what they do. Okay. Now, 2005 comes and Hurricane Katrina is coming, right? Well, Zack and Addie decide they're going to ride it out, even though there were recommended like evac orders, right? Do you guys remember Hurricane Katrina? I didn't live in New Orleans at the time, but I had just moved back, and I definitely remember it because I had lots of friends that were there. So at this point, it wasn't a mandatory evacuation. And whenever Hurricane Katrina hit, the quarter actually wasn't like demolished. They had no electricity, but it wasn't demolished like other parts of New Orleans. So Zack and Addie stayed, and they ended up being like all about this survivalist lifestyle. They liked scrounging around for food. They liked cooking it on open fires outside. They liked hanging out with the neighbors outside. The whole thing. They would have people over. They would bartend, basically in the front yard street for their neighbors. It was like all of the locals. They just kind of, it was a thing, and they just really enjoyed that lifestyle. And actually, Newsweek did an article on Zack and Addie for staying in the quarter and being kind of like the hub for the community down there. So whenever things started to come back, Zack and Addie started to kind of struggle because they really, really liked this lifestyle. Like I said, they wanted this lifestyle. And whenever it started to kind of go away, they had a tough time adjusting. Like, they had to get jobs again, and they had to pay bills again. And it was a stressful situation for them, right? And then Addie was her still same crazy, violent self. Zack and Addie really started to experiment with some really hard drugs at this point. And one night they got into a really bad altercation where Addie really just attacked Zack, and he was like, "I'm done with your crazy ass. I'm leaving, and I'm going to Oregon to see my family." So he goes to Oregon to see his like mom and dad, and he stays there for a couple weeks, and he starts to miss his kids. He starts to miss Addie. And he comes back. Whenever he comes back to New Orleans, he and Addie are back together, and there's like this little honeymoon period. They're doing pretty well together. And of course it doesn't last, guys. Of course. So they get into more fights, and Zack tries to escape Addie by going to the gay bars because Zack liked the bars, and everybody liked Zack. Like I said, they said he was a good-looking guy. The girls and the boys liked him. And Zack would tell his friends that he was a little bi. Okay. Well, anyway, Zack goes to a gay bar, and he ends up meeting someone, and he starts dating him. And pretty much all of their friends knew that Zack had a boyfriend alongside Addie as his girlfriend, except for Addie. When Addie finds out that he has a boyfriend, of course, she is pissed. She is like beyond pissed. So she physically attacks him, like beats him up essentially. And Zack leaves. Now, a couple weeks later, Addie calls Zack and says, I'm really in some financial trouble. Can we maybe move in together, share some expenses, just kind of help me out here. Zack does. He decides to move in with Addie. And so they find an apartment on Rampart Street. And guess what, guys? It is above a voodoo temple. Because, of course, it is. I'm sure it's because it was cheap rent. I mean, like, who the hell wants to live above a voodoo temple? Apparently, Zack and Addie. Anyway, so they go and rent this apartment. And 2 days after moving in, they hadn't signed a lease yet, which, that seems like poor management skills. Anyway, they hadn't signed a lease yet, but Addie goes to the landlord and is like, "Hey, I'm kicking Zack out. He cheated on me. I need the lease in my name only. So the landlord's okay. Well, Zack calls right after Addie leaves, and he's like, she's lying. I paid the first and last month's rent. I paid the security deposit. She's lying. My name should be on this lease. Landlord's like, y'all figure it out. This is not my thing. So Zack is pissed. He's like, I'm not leaving this apartment. This is my apartment. I'm not leaving this apartment. Okay? Okay, that was on a Wednesday night, or a Wednesday with the landlord. Now, after that, Thursday, the next day, Zack goes to work. And when he's at work, his friend who works with him is like, you look like shit. Zack says, Addie and I just had a fight, you know, the usual. She took some of her stuff and she said she's going to North Carolina for a while, where her family's from. The friend's like, that's kind of weird about her to leave New Orleans. She loves New Orleans. But she's crazy, so there's no telling what she's doing. 12 days later, on October 17th, 2006, Zack goes up to, where do I want to put this? Right here. The La Riviera rooftop pool bar at the Omni Royale Hotel in New Orleans. Now, this is not like some shady bar and pool. I mean, it's like on the nicer side, right? Well, it's not shady. Okay, not shady. And Zack proceeds to drink Jameson and smoke cigars for 3 hours. And after about 3 hours, he gets up. Let me see if there's anything else I need to add here. I was not paying attention and I left out some of my, let me see. Oh, that's too white. Sorry. Anyway, so after about 3 hours, Zack gets up and he starts pacing. And the bartender is like, oh man, he's about to skip out on his bill. So the bartender just keeps an eye on him. He watches Zack, and Zack walks over to the railing at the bar and jumps off. He falls 5 stories. He lands face up, instantly dead. Yeah. Can you imagine trying to enjoy your little rooftop pool bar and then that shit? So when the police arrive, they find a Ziploc in his front pants pocket, and it has some things in it. It has his military dog tags, it has his ID, it has a key to his apartment, and it has the address to his apartment in there. And it also says, if you go to the apartment, you will find the body of my girlfriend, Addie Hall. Yep. The body of my girlfriend. So the police arrive at the apartment, and it's a pretty gruesome scene. They see spray painted on the walls, I'm a failure, I love my wife, please call her, with Lana's phone number. It has, like I said, I'm a failure, ask anyone. Then it has a big silver X pointing down to the stove. Now it's one of those like stove oven standalone things. On every burner on the stove is a pot with a different body part in it. Inside of the oven is a roasting pan with more body parts. In the fridge is a black garbage bag with the rest of her. The stuff that was on the stove and in the oven had been apparently cooking for at least 5 days. And there was no smell in the apartment because Zack had turned the air all the way down as far as it would go. So they noticed that as soon as they walked in, it's freezing. But there's body parts everywhere. In the apartment above the Voodoo Temple. Of course. You can't make this stuff up in New Orleans. Now, also at the apartment, they found a 5-page confession of what he had done. It turns out they had been fighting, and he said that she just wouldn't shut the hell up, so he strangled her, fell asleep next to her dead body, woke up, had adult relations with her, went back to sleep, got up, and then went to work. And that was that Thursday when his friend said he looked like crap. It was a long night, apparently. After he had got off work, he had called Lana, his ex-wife, to meet up with her to give her the $600 that he owed her in child support. And they ended up having like a family outing. They went to dinner. They kind of hung out. They had a great time, right? Nothing was wrong. And he was supposed to take the kids for the weekend, but he had told her that his apartment was still getting ready. They had just moved in and it wasn't quite ready yet. So she was like, oh, okay, well, maybe next weekend. So after he drops off Lana and the kids, Zack goes out partying. He spends about, I think it's $2,000 on partying and strippers, living his best life, I guess. And he said all of this in the confession letter. He had said it took 4 days for him to figure out what to do with Addie's body. And that's when he dismembered her and he was trying to cook her because he thought that it would make it easier to dispose of her. I don't know. I don't know. Gross. So in the note, he did say he was remorseful for what he did to Addie, but mostly because of how he felt nothing. So I don't know if that's remorseful or if he's just like, yeah, I think I'm a sociopath, so that sucks. The police did notify Lana of everything that happened, and Lana is quoted as saying that she is thankful that he jumped off the roof because it kept her children from having to go through a lengthy trial and they could just have closure. I don't know how I feel about whatever. However, the whole thing is like gives me the heebie-jeebies. It just does. So to make matters even creepier, the landlord, whom I'm assuming is the voodoo priestess, turned their apartment into a tourist attraction, complete with male and female Chucky dolls and fake blood on the walls. This can only happen in New Orleans. Like, Nola, I love you, but this can only happen in New Orleans. Only. So what do you guys think? What do you guys think about the Zack and Addie story? It was shocking. I mean, like, there's a video of him walking off the roof. Like, don't look it up. Don't look it up. It's disturbing. But it's just everything is so documented. And I guess that's how we are today. But whatever. So what do you guys think? Let me know below. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment. That's very helpful. Let me know what you guys thought about the painting. I went a little crazy because I'm into the story, but this is my oyster. It looks a little off. I'm looking at it in the feedback, but once I turn it straight, it'll look a little better. Let's see. Can you see that? Can you see that? Yeah. He looks more like an oyster and less like an avocado. So I hope you guys had a great time listening. Enjoyed the story. If you think of any stories that you want me to tell, want me to do some research for you, let me know. Post it in the comments below. I read them all. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.